Hello, team, and hello, audience for the Greg Terry Experience. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics and Greg Terry Experience co-stream. It's been a long time coming. We haven't actually hung out for some time, Greg. How are you, my good man?
I'm doing great, Johnny. Sorry about that. It's after all the things unfolded over the last couple of days, Johnny and I basically there are days there are segments where we'll be communicating nonstop for 2 or 3 days straight, and then he's busy, I'm busy, and it'll be 4 or 5 days, and then we'll buzz each other about some event. And yesterday I said, you know what, with all that's happening in the world right now, and kind of being a little bit of Nostradamus-y, looking toward the speech that I knew the president would be giving
At the UN.
At the UN, and along with other world leaders, I messaged JP yesterday. I said, I think tomorrow's a good time for a live. And I think we nailed it, buddy, because there is a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so goodness, where do we start? I mean, we can start with just what's happened, because he's also met with Zelensky in a bilateral meeting.
2 hours ago, the meeting began, and they gave a 6-minute press conference, of which
and there was also his speech, at the UN, which was, sorry to swear here, but in my opinion, it was batshit crazy. Like it was.
Did you see my thumbnail title?
No, I haven't actually.
You didn't? I had a picture of you and I on there, and my title is The Global Shift. And you're saying to me, we're in a proper pickle, mate. And then I reply, but we never chuck it in, my friend.
Yeah.
How did I do with my Brit?
Yeah, I thought I was in London for a second.
Thank you. So we're in a proper pickle, but the pickle is, it's not just one pickle, guys. All of this stuff is connected. And I've been, preaching this, saying this for years and years when I was looking in the camera and talking to myself and my mother. But now we talk to many more people, but all of this is connected. And I think we're seeing that unfold over the last couple of days, even in the UN speech with world leaders. But yeah, so much to talk to it. You drive the carriage, and I'll go. Yes.
Let's go to okay.
First of all, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend some time with us as we discuss. JP and I do not see everything in a similar way, but there is a deepness of respect for each other and a friendship. Johnny has been with me in Ukraine on the front in crazy places like Kherson, and I deeply respect this man and his opinions. So, and he respects me as well. So it's
right back at you. Yeah,
this is going to be good. So for all of you that are new, I've had a lot of new subscribers to the channel. Johnny and I do a lot of work together, and I'm just grateful for his friendship, most importantly.
Yeah.
Now, all that said, let's jump to it.
Yeah. So I guess to start off with, if we do it chronologically, and then we'll get to the meat of the meeting between Zelensky and Trump. So Trump had a UN speech that he gave that was quite frankly astounding in it, but and at the same time not astounding at all. It was 100% Trump. It was just Trump through and through. But it's not what you should be doing in front of all the other countries at the UN to effectively open UN, really. And he basically got up and was talking about how his polls are the best they've ever been. He can't help but to treat everything like the memorial for Charlie Kirk, where he started talking about making a health announcement with RFK Jr. about autism at the memorial speech for Charlie Kirk. And you're thinking, they don't want it. They will clap you because they'll do everything. They love you that much. But in reality, that's deeply inappropriate, right?
Let me pause you on that. And I want to say, even yesterday, I called Prof and I said, you know what? I was very thankful for Johnny's video. I watched it, JP. Your analysis of the memorial for Charlie Kirk. So there are things that we have to remember. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Now, whatever the story comes out about that in the future, it's horrible. The man had a wife. and very young children, and was literally killed in front of the world, and everybody has seen it unless their eyes have been closed. So it's tragic. Forget any viewpoints. The memorial service, just that amount of people just shows respect. Okay, that's it. Leave it there. Leave it there. And in general, and I know there are many, atheists or people that maybe agnostic, trying to figure out their viewpoints in life, whatever. We're all entitled to those opinions. And you say, well, I'm not really hip on them playing Greatest Thy Faithfulness between the speakers. Okay, whatever. You're entitled to that opinion. God bless you. Or may the planets align for you, as Johnny would say. Now, it was on in my house, just listening in the background. I was working. I'd actually put a video up, but I wanted to hear what Donald Trump was going to say. And I will say this. It was disgusting. It was vile. He turned it into a MAGA rally. He assaulted all that is good, even to the point, I mean, when he talked about hating his enemies, my wife wanted to take the chair and throw it through the television. So just so you know, this is our viewpoint as well. It was disgusting that you would utilize that platform to spew hate. And that's what it was.
And he said it directly against what Erica had said. He's even said, look, she hate me for saying this, or not hate me, but she won't appreciate me saying this. And so I saw
that's what he does. That's what he does. He plays that game. He loves to play that game. And that's what he did in the UN today. Disgusting.
Yeah. I saw a fair analysis, just to finish on the Charlie Kirk thing, because it's not about that. But no. The fair analysis was that I was listening to said, really, they should have ended with Erica, the wife, the widow.
My wife said that should have been the end, and he should have never got on the stage.
100%. And then you had Stephen Miller, who gave a supposedly plagiarizing Joseph Goebbels, speech from Goebbels, literally gave a fascistic, I would argue, a fascistic or at least style of speech that I think was wholly inappropriate as well. So so anyway, that was a big rally.
I think this is an example for people that are new to my channel, or maybe you're here today first time on JP's channel, and you just got a demonstration of how we can communicate about topics that we see differently and find common ground in it. And so this is what JP and I do.
Yeah. So I'm for those who don't know, I'm non-religious. I'm an atheist philosopher. I've written a bunch of books on the topic, and Greg is a former pastor, and so we have clearly very different views of how the world works. He's a Republican, I'm a liberal, so on and so forth. But actually, we kind of agree on Trump, and I think here's a good example. So he takes. So the idea is Trump is this narcissist that can't just stop talking about himself.
It's disgusting.
And just capitalizes on every moment to. So it's really interesting. Okay, we're now at the UN.
Okay, let's go to the UN.
Yeah, so we're now at the point where he's appealing to all world leaders, and I think this is a pretty good synopsis of kind of what he did at the UN here. So no, that's not what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So just this source says, Trump quotes, everyone says I should get the Nobel Peace Prize. And actually, let's just play you this bit. This gives you a right sense of what it was about.
Wars is action. Now, after ending all of these wars and also earlier negotiating the Abraham Accords, which is a very big thing for which our country received no credit, never receives credit. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize for each one of these achievements. But for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with the mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed.
So he says, no, it's not really about the Nobel Peace Prize. It's about the people growing up with mothers and fathers, but it's not. It's about the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, he's desperate for it. And so the whole thing
listen to how he speaks. He speaks like a 4-year-old going to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal. I can get a Happy Meal. Okay. And I would even challenge, I would suggest that Donald Trump doesn't even know anything about what the Abraham Accords entail.
Mhm. I've talked a lot about his ignorance on an awful lot of stuff, and it was really interesting. Someone posted the other day an interview on, oh, who is it with? It was from, say, 30 years ago or something like that, and they're asking him what his favorite book was, and it was clear that he just doesn't read at all, right? And that was clear then, and it was a really cringeworthy conversation about Tom Wolfe and Bonfire of the Vanities, and said he didn't know that was his latest book, and then he said he hadn't read it, and then he said that was the best book he's read recently, and it was all just complete nonsense. But the takeaway from that is, even then, it is clear that he doesn't read. Now we heard in Trump 1.0 that he doesn't read, doesn't take intelligence briefings. Then Trump 2.0, he's not taking intelligence briefings. So when at the same time that Biden had 90, he had 14. He's taking one intelligence briefing every 2 weeks. So when you've got a febrile world like this, you have to be taking intelligence briefings. And he's just coming up with nonsense. So he talks about 7 wars, and he keeps talking about Albania being at war with Azerbaijan, then Cambodia with Armenia, and just nightmare. Anyway, yeah.
Azerbaijan. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen. You do not have to take intelligence briefings when, and I quote now from the UN speech today, I'm right about everything. I'm right about everything. And all of your countries are going to hell. I'm right about it. So if you're right about everything, other opinions, intelligence doesn't matter, because you're right about everything. You see where I'm going? That's his mental acuity, which is, it's sad.
So exactly right. So the other incredible thing that he said is, you're all going to hell. Mm-hmm. Which is so I'll play that next if you don't mind, just because.
Let's do it, man. Let's do all of it, because I've got stuff for you too.
Incredible.
Now, Sid, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. So
he's essentially talking about immigration, and he's literally saying all of your countries are going to hell, but we're all right. The other thing he said was, as I said, about poll numbers. But what I wanted to say here, that his UN speech is nothing but whining on the one hand, bragging. So either I'm amazing, or whinge, or playing the victim. And that's exactly right. And so here, like, imagine the French president or the Polish prime minister or whoever standing up in UN to give a UN speech and saying, I've just received the highest poll numbers that I've ever received. It's absolutely, of course, it's not true. His polls are absolutely tanking. So I don't know what he's looking at, Rasmussen polling or whatever. But, imagine another leader said the things he would say, and you'd be like, that's incredibly bizarre. Here it is.
The American public agrees with it. I mean, I was very proud to see this morning I have the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Part of it is because of what we've done on the border. I guess the other part is what we've done in the economy. Joe Biden's policies empowered murderous gangs, human smugglers, child traffickers, drug cartels, and prisoners from all over the world.
It's not a political rally. But he's treated, so it just blows my mind. Anyway, so that's essentially what the UN was. The speech of the UN was just another opportunity to grandstand his amazing political acumen and how terrible Democrats are and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, let me just say this: if the way you build yourself up is by tearing others down, then you're not building anything. Okay. A large majority of his speech was how terrible everybody else is. The UN sucks. Now, listen, the UN has done zero in Ukraine, and I can prove it. I have proven it, and I can prove it again. I can go to parking lots where 20 UN vehicles are parked and have never seen a dirt road. I know where they're parked. So we can talk about that. But the reality is the UN is a joke because Russia sits on the Security Council, this barbaristic nation led by an evil dictator. So take that off the table. But he comes in bashing the escalator, saying, there was this great real estate developer that really, needed to build and renovate the UN back in the 80s. You might have heard of him. His name's Donald Trump. And let me just tell you, it would have been great if I would have done it. We'd have had mahogany walls, and you wouldn't have that terrazzo. You'd have marble on the floor. I mean, it just goes into lunacy. So you never build yourself up by stepping on somebody else. And that's what he wants to do. He shredded the European Union. He shredded your country, the UK.
Yeah. So
he shredded, I don't know anything about mayoral politics.
So I will just give me 20 seconds on this.
Take 10
minutes. He went to town on our mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, because they've got this beef that has been going on for some time. And he talked about is essentially to do with immigration. In fact, you'll get a little bit of it here, just the soups on of what he was. Oops, I want my big face there. Soups on of what he was saying here.
I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor, and it's been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law.
No, they don't. That's a load of rubbish.
You're in a different country. You can't do that. Both the immigration and their suicidal energy ideas will be the death of Western Europe.
Suicidal energy ideas means renewable energy. I just, I don't even want to get onto that because I'll just get angry with him. But like, he keeps having a go at Sadiq Khan for immigration, and the mayor of London has no impact on immigration policy. So it's just like you're just attacking someone just completely unfairly, I mean, what was great is City Hall tonight announced that London City Hall said, we are not going to dignify a response to this these bigoted comments, which I thought was brilliant. And then Sadiq Khan himself did actually do a kind of meme response where he's saying London is the GOAT, greatest of all time. Anyway, so everyone gets the idea that this speech was just like grievances for pre-existing grievances, an opportunity to have a go at renewable energy, Europe, UK, other countries with their immigration, his own political enemies, and et cetera, your typical campaign rally. And at the same time, those leaders are not there for that. They're there to be led. Well, no, they are leaders themselves. They don't need to be led by the US. But it would be good if the US took like a really positive lead on really important things, such as Gaza and Israel, such as Ukraine and Russia. These really difficult, almost intractable issues. If there isn't going to be unity of thought on this, and there is no leadership from the US, so he said some things to do with kind of Russia in this speech that I don't think were particularly unusual. I think he said, in the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal, the USA is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs, which would stop the bloodshed very quickly. But for those tariffs to be effective, European nations, all of you, are gathered here right now, would have to join us, which is what he's been saying recently anyway, which is his off-ramp, which is if you guys don't do this, then we won't put sanctions on. So they're never going to do that.
Let me interrupt you now, okay? Because and I don't mean that negatively, but you wanted your 2 cents on the mayor. Now let me give you my 2 cents on Donald Trump and this one particular talking point that he will not get off of. That is because he is a failed leader. Okay. And when I say I'm an American, our perspective, our support of Ukraine or any other nation on the planet, our standing up for what is right, our standing against Russia should not be dependent upon other nations. If we choose to sanction and tariff Russia, we are not waiting for Greece to do it. We are not waiting for Austria to do it. We will take the bull by the horns. We will lead. We will stand up, and we will say, no more. The tariffs are there. EU, you need to join us. We are going to lead by example. But when you move the onus, when you move the weight over, all that does is give you an exit ramp. And that's what he's doing. Yeah, it's easy 100%. To see.
Interesting point here from from Gen Consensus. It says, at least Trump says Europe needs to stop buying Russian oil and leaves Turkey out. Turkey is the world's third largest importer of Russian oil and gets huge discounts. That's a really interesting point. So he likes Erdogan, although Erdogan was quite critical of him, sort of, over the last 24 hours.
Erdogan spoke after Trump and shredded. I mean, when it came to Gaza, Palestine, international relations, he's holding up pictures. I didn't watch it all, but I checked on it right before we went live.
Interesting. I haven't seen that. I know that
I didn't either, so I can't talk about it.
Another talking point in the last 24 hours. But that's an interesting one because that's a member of NATO, and he has actually, although Gen Consensus says, he doesn't mention Turkey, but actually he has, because he said previously that all NATO countries, he wrote that scare quotes letter, that True Social post, to all NATO countries and all EU countries saying that you have to stop buying Russian oil. But of course, the people that are mainly doing that, Turkey, and Slovakia and Hungary, the two of his mates, that actually Europe really needs him to have a go at them to affect a change, because actually the EU telling them not to buy Russian oil would just prompt a pushback from them, because they are kind of Eurosceptic anyway. So if you're really worried about the EU countries buying oil, then please actually mention them explicitly as Hungary and Slovakia and go to town on them, because you've got the power to do that.
It's interesting because it was last night, I believe, Erdogan was on an interview with Fox News, and he made the statements that he has good relations with Putin and communication with him, which he does. And additionally, he's kind of, NATO is Humpty Dumpty that sat on a wall. They're just on the wall with everything in regard to many things. But I'll tell you, he said, I don't see this war in Ukraine ending for a long time. And that when you hear somebody who has a little bit of inside perspective, and I believe Erdogan has some inside perspective, meaning he knows more about what is Putin's intentions. He knows more about maybe NATO conversations that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting glimpses into what will be coming down the road. And the reason I'm mentioning this now is because I'm actually subtitling it right now while I'm talking live to you, and we're going to play these videos. Trump confirms everything Erdogan said last night, and not at the UN meeting or the speech, but in his 1:00 Eastern, 8 p.m. Ukraine time, short meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky and the 6-minute post press conference. I've got all the video, and it confirms everything Erdogan said. So it's interesting.
Yes, and by the way, I'm flashing up all the super chats because we probably won't have time, because there are two channels, and your channel is
Dutch
is very active. So
hold on, elbows up.
Good old bit of Canadian there. So yes, Turkey's a very important country, and people often are quick to criticize Turkey and say they should be kicked out of NATO, or they shouldn't be anywhere near the EU or whatever. You've got to understand that NATO, and my audience will know what I'm going to say next, because I always say this. NATO are the crossroads between the North and the South, the East and the West, Europe and Asia, Europe and the Middle East, Europe and Africa. They control through the Montreux Convention, they control the Bosphorus Straits, and that is the access for Black Sea nations into the Mediterranean. They are the crossroads between Christianity and secularism, Christianity and Islam, Islam and secularism. They are the crossroads between NATO and non-NATO. They are EU and non-EU. So they're involved in all of these things. That is why Turkey are in NATO, because if they're not in NATO, then they're in the Russian sphere of influence. And it's a zero-sum game there. And this is what NATO, I believe, thought, which is like, we need them with us, because otherwise, if they're not with us, then they're with Russia. And if they're with Russia, that is a massive problem, because they control the Black Sea and the access to all of those different places by being literally, I would say Turkey is arguably one of the most central countries in the world in terms of cultures and all of those things, aforementioned things. So they're super, super important, is all I want to say.
Agreed. Very, very important. I think that the majority, and I know lots of folks are here now, they want to hear, any Ukraine news that came out of this, because we're talking about so many various topics here, because there's so many directions we can go.
Well, let's then take it to
but
the meeting.
let's stay at the UN for a second.
Okay.
And then we can go into drones in Copenhagen. We can go into Iranian gas turbines coming to Russia. We can go wherever you want to go. I'm up to date on everything right now, the best I can possibly be. But I personally believe we have a massive amount of in America, we have driven everyone else further away. Put that back up. Thank you. From us than any time in history. Papa Dutch, 100% agree. And guys, I'm going to holler these out in a minute. So thank you in advance. But let's close out this UN, because now other speeches are happening. Trump's having his meetings where he can sit down and world leaders can come and do everything that they do. But the press conference after, this is going to aggravate some of you guys. And let me get it here. The press conference to me is the most telling. Let's go.
Before we go to the press conference, let's give a bit of previous context. So it's worth noting that before, or maybe at the UN, I think it might have been at the UN, Marco Rubio was saying that the US is not inclined to take new measures against Russia as long as European countries buy Russian oil. So that is, you kind of reiterating the Trump point. He stated the UN plays no role in resolving the conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza. He noted that the war between Russia and Ukraine, it is Trump who bears the brunt of the burden of trying to end it. But he said that in an interview that Washington could at some point stop facilitating efforts to resolve the war in Ukraine if no prospects for peace are seen. So again, this kind of nebulous idea that if you guys don't sort it out, we're going to walk away, which is, I think, just priming everyone for the fact that they will walk away. Adding that Russia has to end the war and Ukraine should agree to the settlement to end the war. In other words, it's putting onus on Ukraine to do the agreement. And then I think he also said that and I can't find it here, but he's also said that NATO will not shoot down jets and Russian threats, which goes against what Sikorsky said, Radoslav Sikorsky in the UN yesterday. And then that kind of tees you up with what Trump has said.
Okay, well, let's start then with NATO. Okay. Thank you. Let's start with NATO, because this one is just, for me personally, a big tale. And when I say that, I mean, you're either a leader or you're not. And I'm sorry, but this will be confirming for a lot of people, but Donald Trump is not a leader. He is a failure in an overwhelming majority of his leadership efforts throughout his history. It's obvious. But play that video file here. And this is about NATO. If the United States is in NATO, and over the last couple of years, raising the 2% to 5% and all this, NATO's great.
President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Sorry. Would you back up NATO allies? You said that you thought that they should shoot down the Russian aircraft. Would you back them up? Would the United States help them out in some way?
Depends on the circumstance, but we're very strong toward NATO. NATO stepped up. When they went from 2% to 5%, that was great unity.
All right. So here's my issue with that. If you are the leader of the free world and you are a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and you are asked a question, if a Russian plane violates NATO airspace, should that nation shoot that plane down? Do you think so? Yes, I do. Great. Follow-up question. If they shoot them down, are you willing to stand with them and support them? Depends on the circumstances. No, I'm sorry. The circumstance is they violated NATO airspace. That's the circumstance. And It's like what Turkey did in 2015. And I know there's so much happening with that. And they shot down that jet after being in airspace 17 seconds. But the reality is, at that point, you have a great opportunity to say, yes, I support NATO. There's no action coming from you other than rhetoric right now and words. All you have to say is, yes, I said it. I said if they violate the airspace, shoot them down. And we are a part of the organization, and we are active NATO members, and we will support our allies. He doesn't say that.
So this is what Rubio said. He said that NATO will not shoot down Russian planes if they do not engage in aggressive actions. I think you've seen NATO respond to these violations the way we always respond to them, which is when they enter your airspace at your defense zone, you go up and intercept them, he said. So he's just saying, well, carry on as usual, just try and usher them out of the airspace. And I think Mark Rutte, the Secretary General, has also come out and said NATO are not going to shoot them down. So you've got a NATO country, the foreign minister, Radoslav Sikorski of Poland,
Yes.
saying we are going to shoot them down. Now, I'm sure he would only have said that with a say-so of NATO, right? I'm sure he's not going to have not spoken to NATO, say, you know, it's got to come from some agreement with NATO. Then he says that, and then Rubio says, no, we're not going to shoot them down. I think Rutte then is saying we're not. And then Trump says, yeah, NATO are going to shoot them down, and we may or may not help them depending on the context. And you're like, what is going on? There are just so many mixed messages.
Because I'm going to answer why there are mixed messages in the next two video clips. The next one is ready.
Any update on your talks with President Putin, and do you still trust him?
I'll let you know in about a month from now, okay?
Okay, that is the answer. He's sitting right beside the president of the nation that is being decimated daily with these strikes, civilians being killed, a very horrible and difficult front line, the drone warfare going crazy. He's sitting right beside that president who Donald Trump knows Zelensky and Putin hate each other. He said it multiple times. He knows that Zelensky does not trust Putin at all. In fact, Zelensky would say the exact opposite of it. So he's going to say, well, you know, do you still trust Putin? Well, I'll let you know in about a month. Okay.
So I find
It's
that
disgusting,
absolutely
brother.
horrendous. So we've already had 7 different times given by Trump himself. So you've had 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Oh, whoa.
Then it went 50 days. Then it went 10 to 12 days. Then it went 2 weeks. So those are the 7. And now we've got a month. Okay, it's not the kind of sanctions thing, but it's like, it's the same kind of thing. I'll let you know in a month whether I trust Putin or not. It's just, honestly, it makes me so angry.
Okay.
Can I just, before I got Mark Rutte, what he said, sort of correct, but also sort of wrong. So he actually is quite nuanced here, Mark Rutte, the Secretary General for NATO. This is what he said.
And as no immediate threat was assessed here in this case, shooting down the mix was not necessary. And of course, what we will always do is to make sure that we react in a proportionate way. But if necessary, you can be assured we will do what is necessary to defend our cities, our people, our infrastructure.
So that was a bit of both. So he said it wasn't necessary to shoot the MiGs down in that particular situation. But if it is necessary, we don't have a problem with doing that.
Breaking news. Okay,
here it comes.
And this is leading up, and I have to give a big shout out to @Live on Tropics for making me aware of this. I happened to look down at the chat and just see it. My mods, thank you to all the mods working. They're sending me comments and questions on the backside as well. And you guys are chatting. We thank you for everything. But breaking news, Johnny. And before we go to the breaking, I want to play this video. It's nailing it. My thought process.
It's not a good thing for Russia. This was supposed to be quick.
There you go. Go.
And so, you know, Russia doesn't look very distinguished, having taken 3.5 years now, right? It's about 3.5 years of very hard fighting. And it looks like it's not going to end for a long time.
All right. It's not going to end for a long time. So forget the month on Putin, forget 2 weeks, forget tariffs, forget sanctions, forget all of it. It's not
about 24 hours. I thought it was
Forget
gonna...
24 hours. No.
All right.
Now,
Okay.
please pull up Truth Social, Donald Trump's Truth 38 minutes ago. His tweet, sorry.
I'll find it out. Give me a second. Keep talking, and I'll find.
I'm reading it now. It was in my chat, but I think we've laid out logically what has happened today. You know, of course, the Donald Trump madness will be there, but then the press conference, and now we're going to get there in JP in the Queen's English. There
is this one
after getting to know whatever
right,
that
okay.
one is. Go for it, brother.
After getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russian military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back to its original form. Okay.
I told you.
Dude, my bingo card did not have this, right? This was not on tonight's bingo card. And lo and behold, Donald Trump has just given shivers down my spine and I've got goosebumps on my arm, right? That's how freaking important that is. This is...
Okay.
Right, I haven't read any more, so maybe he's going to say...
Let me tell you something. Let me just tell you something right now. Dmitry Peskov, Zarubin, Zakharova, Dmitriev, Shoigu, they're all running to Putin's bedroom right now and saying, Mr. Putin, you need to read this. And listen, this 100%. Just shows you the map. Let's keep going, though. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Because I think this plays into exactly.
Oh, by the way, JP, you have no cards. You can't win. You're going to start World War III. You have no cards. From that to this.
I would love it if lived like tomorrow. It's never going to happen because it'd be completely self-destructive. But if Zelensky was in a press conference, he just turns to the journalist and says, "Hey, by the way, turns out I do have some cards after all."
And one last thing I will say that I do not have translated is, yes, everybody make sure your expectations are tempered.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
But I will tell you this. It was in Ukrainian when Zelensky was walking out of the UN. A reporter in Ukrainian asked him, okay, how did the meeting go? And Zelensky turned and he smiled and says, this was the most substance-filled conversation we've had yet.
That is the most substantive conversation. Yeah.
Yep.
So to continue,
yes.
With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Why not? Russia's been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should never have taken a real military power less than a week to win. Oh, this is a punch in the nuts. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger. When the people living in Moscow and all of the great cities, towns, and districts all throughout Russia find out what is really going on with this war, the fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed, and all of the other things that are taking place in their war economy, where most of their money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has great spirit, and only getting better, Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form. And who knows, maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. In any event, I wish both countries well.
Nuts. Okay.
What a random thing to say.
Nuts.
Just when Hitler was just coming towards the end, getting to bunker time, you're like, oh no, I do wish him well. I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Good luck to all. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. That is absolutely gobsmacking. And do you know
now, what? This is the thought that occurred to me. Okay.
He's actually got intelligence.
Thank you. Did you say I have intelligence?
That can be read in all sorts of ways, mate.
Listen. Donald Trump just signed out of this war officially from trying to stop it. That's what that is. Okay? He just closed the door to negotiating a peace, a trilateral meeting. Let me sit you two down and bring you together. He just exited that stage. He had a conversation with Kellogg, and Kellogg knows the truth, and he is going to make money on the war by selling weapons to NATO and NATO into Ukraine. Good luck to Ukraine. We wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons for NATO to do what they want with them all. Good luck to all. Okay. In my opinion, as an American, that I listen to our mess every day and have a little bit of concept on this narcissist, I think he just checked out officially from being the mediator. That's my opinion on this.
Which I think, so several things.
Which is good.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that was kind of where he was going anyway. Like, irrespective, I think he wants out because it's intractable for him. He can't solve it in 24 hours. And he's been all over the place throughout this war throughout the last 7 months, in terms of what he says and who he's last spoken to. So when he goes to visit, the NATO leaders at a NATO summit, then he comes out saying something. And then when he speaks to his people around him from the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller, blah, 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 he says other things. Now, what's interesting from that post, and I'll place it up again so people can just look at it again, but that post is not written by him. Obviously, I don't think. Of
course not.
Any of them are, but you can tell that there's a different style there. It's not covered in capitals, and that is written differently. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind that is written differently. Now, what has happened here, in my opinion, is that he has received intelligence. He has received actual information about what is going on. And what I've been reporting on, I'm sure you have as well, Greg, is that the Russian economy is in a lot of trouble. All these indicators that we've been showing, that I know people are saying, well, you said it's going to be collapsing, or certain analysts are saying it's going to be collapsing tomorrow, next week, very soon. And it hasn't happened. But they've got wealth fund to draw on. They can go to a war economy. There are things that they could do, but actually some of those are running out. Like, the wealth fund is getting decimated, and all the indicators, all the canaries in the coal mine are dying. Like, then the hit on the refineries, I think, has really hurt them. So we're hearing that the army is starting to ration diesel, which is a huge problem. There are all sorts of closures of petrol stations, and people struggling to get gasoline or petrol and now diesel, and then the income from the hydrocarbons, both from sanctions. So sanctions will be biting, and they will be cumulative as long as they're enforced. They'll be cumulative. And then EU's added on a 19th package just now. And then you've got, banking issues, and you've got pressure on India and China, whether that actually happens or not. All of this is just closing the net, on Russia. And then I'm pretty sure he's got actually decent intelligence of militarily what's going on. Now, it's not to say it's all roses for the Ukrainians. It's really freaking difficult, and certain areas are pretty disastrous. But Sumy, I think, is disastrous for the Russians at the moment. Prokrovka's looked a lot better for the Ukrainians. Kupiansk seems to be back on track, these are all places that, if the Russians had huge reserves, I know there are theories that they're amassing 300,000, but I don't think that's true. I think if they genuinely had reserves, they would be being poured into these places, but they're taking from Sumy, they're taking from Kherson, piling those people into Prokrovsk to try and stop Prokrovsk being the disaster it's looking like it is going to be, or possibly is, for the Russians. And all of these indicators are that Russia is a paper tiger, and is not in the position that he probably thought they were when he kept saying, look, it's a country with 11 time zones. Look how massive it is. Ukraine can't possibly win against Russia because it's so big. Someone's come to him and said, do you know what? They ain't all that in a bag of chips. They are in trouble militarily and economically.
Well, let me just say one thing. On the front lines, we do have some good news in some of the locations, as you mentioned. The best news is in Sumy region, but I can tell you, it's horrible there, man. I don't care. You've got to listen to Andrew Perpetua on this one. He's accurate. And I'm telling you, Russia has a lot of crap down there, but unfortunately, the drones are so bad now, Johnny, It's so bad with drones, both sides, Russia to Ukraine,
Yeah.
Ukraine to Russia. The front looks completely different. Like this zero line is not a zero line specifically anymore. It all becomes gray, to be quite honest with you. Logistical transports are nightmares for both Ukraine and Russia. It's just a fact. But Ukraine is smashing their economy. Last night, Ukraine shut down Moscow skies. I put a video up about it. It did very well. A lot of people saw it. And what you have to understand is Moscow is a mega city. And even though we're not flying there as the United States and European nations, the rest of the world is flying there. And when you shut down Moscow, Sheremetyevo, and we shut down Domodedovo, and you shut down Vnukovo, all these different places, you shut them down, it is a massive cost to the Russian economy. Then take it to the next level with refinery, fuel, distribution, port systems, train, and Ukraine is fighting a good war. It takes us into, we now know he may have received some intelligence about the pink flamingos, and Ukraine's ramping up production of them with the ability to strike the rear. We have two wars going here, guys. Two wars. You have a zero line war that is not zero anymore. It's gray. It's longer. It's not about bullets and guns, although bullets and guns are very important. It's about drones. And then the second front of the war is in the rear. It's coming into the fall and the winter. I know you want to go at it. Coming into the fall and the winter, it's going to be critical for Ukraine as far as gas, and I mean heating fuel, and electricity. They have to defend those generating and supply places. And for Russia, Ukraine keeps smashing the gas, the oil, the ports. And I think we're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel that Ukraine actually is crippling Russia. That is why it's going to be vitally important to see what unfolds with Russian relationships going towards BRICS and China and India and Iran now with these deals. That now has to be touched. And this comes right on the heels of Erdogan last night on Fox News saying the war's not ending. And then Trump today saying the war's not ending. In fact, now what I'm doing while you're talking, I'm reading Russia news straight. Okay. Russia posting right now that Donald Trump at his personal meeting with Macron actually went deeper talking about his relations with Putin saying, I didn't expect it. And contrary to what I thought, my relationship with him, quote, unfortunately meant nothing for helping to end the Ukraine conflict. I think what we have is
a moment of realization,
a realization moment and a checkout.
But what's frustrating is this realization should have been there much, much earlier, because he should have decent intelligence, but I don't think he's getting intelligence. Like every time he comes away from speaking to Zelensky and speaking to NATO, he has a much better grasp of what's going on. And that's when his opinions change, because he's actually been told the truth. I think there is not a direct line from the Pentagon to Trump in a way there should be to the president. And that line from the Pentagon to the Trump is intercepted by people like Stephen Miller, by people who are, about Elbridge Colby even, who's in the Pentagon. I think that he's not receiving the information that he absolutely needs to have a proper grasp of what's going on. Now, what I was getting excited about earlier, when you were talking about some of the positives of Ukraine, is that near rear, that 0 to 200 kilometers. Mm-hmm. I've been reporting on this loads for the last couple of weeks, is that Ukraine has been absolutely spanking the bejesus out of the Russian near rear. So they have got these fire-point drones. I think the FP1 drone that's got 105 kilogram warhead, that's got up to 200 kilometers of range, and they are making them, it appears, at scale. You've got Primary Group in Crimea absolutely wrecking radars, air defense, and then in the last 3 nights, 2 airplanes and 4 helicopters, and then there was another 2 airplanes last night as well in another airbase. So that's 4 airplanes and 4 helicopters in basically 3 nights. And I think as a degradation of the Russian air defenses is now, I think, starting to accelerate or starting to bite. I think it's just been going on for some time, but particularly in Crimea, you are starting to get the ability to then hit anything you want in Crimea. And my theory this morning, Greg, and I'll be interested to see what you think, is the attack last night into Moscow was probably never going to result in anything meaningful getting destroyed. So they probably did send quite a few drones, which cost quite a lot of money, into Moscow. And you're thinking, what's the point if they're going to get shot down because the best air defenses are there? But that is saying, in my opinion, is that's the Ukrainians saying, yeah, you need to keep your best air defenses around Moscow because we can hit Moscow. We've taken out some things around Kaluga Oblast, which is on the way to Moscow, and we've taken out some strategic air defenses there. So we can hit Moscow if you don't have those air defenses. And also, we're going to absolutely rinse Crimea. And do you know what you can't do? You can't move your air defenses from Moscow to Crimea because we've just communicated to you that we can hit Moscow. So last night was just telling him they've got a dilemma.
Isn't it interesting that the Moscow attack in Crimea, specifically Moscow, was done the night before the UN meeting with Zelensky?
Yeah.
I can tell you now, I'm getting more out of Zelensky that he stated, quote, Trump is the one who can fundamentally change everything, and even with moving out from the mediator position or thinking he can solve it. And then today I can say Trump trusts me more than Putin. That's a Zelensky statement.
That's a huge statement.
Okay. Listen, and
to say that in public, that's huge.
And Zelensky just said Trump is now realizing that the information Putin was sharing was far from the truth. It was a good meeting today.
He was getting his information from Russia. Like I said,
of course.
There was stuff that he was saying that was like, well, that's just the Russian information. So, like, what are you doing as a president of the United States? Getting your information from the adversary and then using that to derive your conclusions and your actions. So, yeah, what Zelensky's just said there is massive. That is huge.
I wish it would have been said years ago. I wish it would have, because there's been a lot of loss of life. And when we talk about this, we need to remind ourselves that this is stoking the war fire, not diminishing it. And it is going to be interesting to hear responses come out of the Kremlin on this. I can tell you they're already dropping memes. They're starting to hate on Trump. I'll get one and share it in a little bit.
But that's great because then Trump will get wind of that, and then it cements the adversarial nature of Russia. Absolutely, that's brilliant. Yeah, so just to go just very quickly again, like I wanted to just show some imagery, and although this happened at the end of August, this has been going on now for some time. So we have, I presume, you might well have seen these. I think I sent you a link earlier, but I think you've probably already seen them. This was a strike on with 14 drones at the end of August. So they've been doing this now for over a month, doing these near rear hits that are hurting. So they're also hitting troop accumulations and officer accumulations. I've seen guided glide bombs reporting from Ukraine, who's very often cheerleads for Ukraine, and you can pinch of salt and all, but the YouTube channel reporting from Ukraine's last night's video was they're starting to use aviation freely to hammer these Russian, and I'm showing videos every day of entire buildings getting destroyed by Ukrainian guided glide bombs. Now they're probably not using them anywhere near the amount that Russia's using, but I think they're using them more precisely and with better effect. And here we have, absolute destruction of Iskander launchers and transporters and a Pantsir S-1 defense system. So this is a Molkino training ground in Russia's Krasnodar region in late August. Several Iskander launchers were destroyed, a Pantsir S-1 system damaged, and actually something like, I think, 6 elements of the Iskander system there were taken out. And that's just one example of what is going. That's 14 drones hitting that. Ukraine are, and this is me sounding copium, but they are producing medium-range drones at scale enough to really be hurting Russia's war project at the moment. They took out 8 FSB officers in Belgorod recently. They took out Koronova, decimated the leadership of the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade. They took out another place of 17 officers, I think in Luhansk, and they keep doing that. And eventually, that is going to start really hurting Russia's ability to actually do frontline activities.
Okay, so let me make a couple of statements here. First, would you share that tab right there? Johnny's hosting the stream today, guys, not me. Trump makes abrupt shift on Ukraine. The president says Kyiv is now in position to fight and win back its original borders in war against Russia. That is the American CNN, not international CNN. So just wanted to share that. So here's where we're at, guys. There had to be a shift. And let me make this statement. I do not trust Donald Trump as far as I can throw him. And I've got news for you. I can't even lift him.
Okay? He's only as good as his last 10 minutes.
That's correct. But this was needed.
100%.
This was needed. And I know there's so much hatred for Donald Trump. And it's not only from the left or the centrist. There's even a lot of hatred toward Donald Trump from the right. And there's a lot of love for him in that far right extremism. Okay, that's just reality. So we cannot be an ostrich and stick our head in the sand and just hope everything's better. The bottom line is this shift needed to happen. A statement, at least this statement needed to happen. And now what do? It's going to be so interesting. I'll be up late tonight to hear what is coming out of Russia. I'll probably put a video up late tonight. Guys, this is a shift.
Yeah.
This is a shift. So now we have to honestly evaluate. And that's why I think people come to your channel and my channel and others that we stand together. We need to deal in facts and deal in truth. The fact is, there could not have been a better statement written. And I know he didn't write it.
Yeah.
But come from his account.
Completely agree.
So now we have to see what comes from it. But I can tell you this right now. Ukraine is locked and loaded. And they want to liberate their country. And we are supporting them. They are fighting for freedom. They are the one led by President Vladimir Zelensky, who against all odds, at the worst, most critical situations, when you're being screamed at in front of the whole world by J.D. Vance, who is a moron, okay? And you're being pointed at and you're being tapped on the shoulder and you have no cards. And Zelensky, knowing that within a matter of weeks, he would open up tractor trailers and disintegrate a part of Russia's strategic aviation. He already knew it, guys, Operation Spiderweb, and he never said a word. Now, fast forward all the way to September the 23rd, 2025. Zelensky walks out and goes, yeah, substantive meeting, the most important we've ever had, and you'll hear some good things about it. Trump trusts me more than Putin. And then this message comes. We have to take it for what it is, and then we'll see what happens in 6 hours. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But this is a good moment.
This is the time to act. It's just incredible. I mean, that just simple statement is so divorced from what Trump has said at any point previously. He's never once said anything positive about Ukraine's ability to prevail in this war. And that whole thing, they can take back, like, even I don't think they can do this, Greg. Like, even I don't think, after getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russian military and economic situation. So again, that's the admission that he didn't know it before. Like, that's the implication.
Okay, keep talking. I'm going to subtitle this. This is breaking in Russia right now.
After seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, so again, he didn't realize the economic cost on Russia. That's something he's only just realized. I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, so now he's talking about working or he's not working with the union, but he's saying the European Union can do this and NATO can do this. He is giving it all over. So that's at the bottom. He says, we will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do with what they want. To do, they can do what they want. NATO can go and help Ukraine. EU can go and help Ukraine, but just from my point of view of looking on and sort of supporting, with the help of the European Union, they are in a position to fight and win. That's the only time he goes all caps, is win all of Ukraine back in its original form. He's not even remotely suggested anything similar before. He's talked about, well, actually, they are going to have to make concessions. He's repeatedly stated that.
Okay, let's do this then. And I'm getting this. I'll upload it. Yes, I subtitled it that fast. Don't play it yet. So he didn't write the post. No problem. Great.
Yeah.
But you can't deny what you're getting ready to hear. Play this one.
Okay.
Bad situation, but most of you have seen the recent statement I put out a little while ago.
Sorry, it's not.
It's okay. Do it again. Do it again.
A bit funky.
Situation, but most of you have seen the recent statement I put out a little while ago, and I'm glad you got it. But I feel that way. I really do feel that way. Let them get their land back.
Yep.
So we'll see how it all works out. And
so, by the way, just from a point of practicality, Greg, like,
let them get their land back.
He could, of course, he couldn't write that because he's just been in meetings. Like that would take him to write that. Donald Trump would take him. Okay, could dictate it, but that's a good 20-minute, half an hour bit of like taking. That's a serious bit of communication you're doing there. And of course, he's been in meetings the whole time, and then that comes out. So this is coming from his staff. But you're absolutely right. Getting their land back, that is absolutely huge. Let's play it again.
Please.
Sad situation, but most of you have seen the recent statement I put out a little while ago, and I'm glad you got it. But I feel that way. I really do feel that way. Let them get their land back.
Yep.
So we'll see how it all works out.
Now, let me say something about this. If it changes tomorrow, it changes tomorrow. But this is what we have right now. And it's good. But when you hear Donald Trump make a "I feel it" statement, okay, this is like yesterday at the press conference on acetaminophen, okay? I just feel this is the best thing for women. I feel it. So that's his way of, historically speaking, that he may actually stay on this course a little bit. We'll see. I will tell you this. Let me subtitle this one.
I want to say that Tim White, someone that I've interviewed a number of times, and I use him as a source, I think sums it up pretty well. Amazing post by Donald Trump after meeting Zelensky, but it does imply he admits he was talking nonsense and didn't have a clue what was happening until meeting Ukraine's president. That is the implication. He's like, I've just realized what's actually going on. It turns out that Ukraine can win this. And the whole realization is brought about from actually having better information about what's going on.
I'm exporting this one. Putin's going to love this one.
Macron, after that meeting, you can tell he's going to go back to a hotel and just whack a bottle of champagne back. It's just going to be like.
All right, now let me explain. Let me preface this one because I'm actually pulling these all in from Russian media. They're posting all this stuff now, and okay, so yes, I'm reading the Russian media right now. So because I want to see what they're posting. And this is not that anything in Russia is ever reputable, but this is what they're watching. So now Zelensky has all these reporters around him since all this news is breaking. And look what he says. Play this.
Yeah, could I ask a question? Robert Moore from ITV.
Excuse me, sorry, I have the question.
I'm feeling like President of the United States.
I'm feeling like the President of the United States now. So many reporters are around me. So just pay attention. There are people listening to this. There are people watching it. He's being overwhelmed with questions. Greg, don't insult the morons, please. I will do my best, Oink.
Yeah, so this is pretty incredible, but then we've learned now to temper our excitement. As you can tell, I'm
Yes.
excited by this because I think this is one of the single biggest shifts that we could possibly imagine. I mean, and it's just happened like that. There was no sense that this was coming at all. In fact, if you looked at the, in fact, maybe there's a little bit of unpicking to do here, Greg, because he was speaking at the UN. At the UN himself, right? And he was just regurgitating his normal BS, right?
Correct.
All his kind of
just talking,
rallies,
yes.
all that rally stuff. And this is inside him. That's coming out as a sort of a torrent of BS, right? And then he's got the usual, we'll sanction Russia if you guys sort it out over there. You guys need to do it, and then we'll come on board. But that's never going to happen. I know that, so we're not going to sanction Russia. Then he goes away and meets with Zelensky for how long?
8 minutes, I think, and then a 6-minute press conference.
So, like,
don't quote me on the 8 guys, but that's what I read.
But even if it's half an hour, like, how do we explain that shift in that amount of time? That is odd, isn't it? Like, you would need to sit down and actually look at data, look at maps, to get a proper understanding and say, well, is this true what you're telling me? Rather than 8 minutes, he's just told me that the bloody economy's in trouble. Like,
it was already written. It was already decided.
What?
The course of action was already decided. I personally feel it probably happened overnight.
So that's kind of my point.
Yes,
that's kind of my point. That Trump hasn't decided that because he can't have taken all of the requisite information in that time period and make a considered post like that. Like it's that's kind of physically impossible. And so therefore, like, who has made these decisions and how did they get made and why? And Trump was clearly not a party to that. Like that. Surely, if Trump was a party to that, then he would have hinted so in his speech in front of the UN. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
This, I think there's definitely a bit of unpicking to do there because maybe this is the Pentagon and forces behind Trump that have finally come to a realization, or maybe they fought their way to prominence where Heritage Foundation people have been against. I don't understand how this has come about.
I want you to play this video file one more time because Mitch Ashdown just super chatted. And guys, Johnny, I want to catch up with the super chats. A lot of people are super chatting and commenting. Let's make sure we get all of those. But Mitch Ashdown just super chatted and says, you know what? The smile on Zelensky's face told it all. Play that video one more time because, yeah, that was a genuine smile.
Robert Moore from ITV.
Excuse me. Sorry, I have the question.
I'm feeling like president of the United States.
There, right there.
Yeah,
that's genuine, man. That's 100%. Genuine. Yeah. Now, if you'll pull up the screen I'm sharing, that is Dmitry Medvedev. About 2 hours ago, Russia's ready to comply with the START treaty, which I signed in 2010 when he was president. Now the Trump admin must decide, but adhering to the letter of the treaty isn't enough. The U.S. must give up on weakening Russia with sanctions and tariffs. Otherwise, the risk of direct conflict remains high.
So this has been bubbling away for the last 24 hours. I haven't actually reported on this, but it's due to, if we hadn't had this live, I was going to do geopolitical news, and I've got like a bunch of these. But one of them was using the START, which is nuclear arms control.
Yes.
Using arms control to try and here it is, actually. So this is what I was going to say. This is a good time to bring this in. So Euromaidan Press says the Institute for the Study of War states that Putin pressures Trump on arms control to facilitate US-Russian rapprochement. So Putin's arms control overtures aim to deflect from stalled Ukraine negotiations while securing US concessions, according to ISW, and that forecasted this Russian strategy in August 2025. So they actually have predicted this, which was that when it all stalls, or if it's looking bad, I would say if it's looking bad for Russia, then they go in with let's do nuclear disarmament and let's get that back on, or let's start visiting each other's countries to look at how many nuclear warheads we've got, etc., as part of the START treaty, which has fallen by the wayside because of the war in Ukraine. But now if we restart that, then you can let us off some sanctions. And then to me, that is a sign of desperation. Like, they do that because that's all the leverage they've got. Right, you want us to stop with nuclear disarmament. We know you're big on nuclear. Nuclear scares you, Trump. So let's get this back on track, and then you can let us off some sanctions. That is telling me that the sanctions are really freaking hurting. That's what I had to say to that. I have been showing all the super chats as we are going.
Thank you.
So every single one of them has been shown.
Thank you.
Because there's 2 channels, it might be quite difficult to go through them.
It will. Let me just holler this out real fast, because I'm now getting there finally some commentary coming from Russian analysts that there's no legit but consistent with their rhetoric. Paul Good A. Deberitz, welcome to my crew member, but man, you've been here forever. Pyro Kurt Brubaker, I need to mention this $25 super chat. Kurt is one of my moderators and had a tough night there, and praying for you, sir. And LJ Boone, I'm paying forward that long distance pizza delivery, and thank you to you and BB for getting me through yesterday. I guess I should also mention Nick Suter. He's from End Time Independent News. Thanks again. Love you both. Nick, not so much. Agreed on that. Papa Dutch, member 19 months. Trump's excellent crook, useless as president. Of course, this was all prior to any of this breaking. That's still the same. Johnny Nedregard, Norwegian island dweller. Hello, Hope Train. Rick Netherlands. Greg is a Brit's almost good as Jonathan as an Aussie. Thank you. That's a compliment. Papa
no, I don't think it is, actually. So I do my Australian accent all the time, and I get ridiculed for it. But yeah.
Blonde Bombsheller there. You got that up now. Thank you, Greg JP and chat, for being the best. Papa Dutch, waxing eloquent as always. Pether Olsen, Swedish non-smoking initiative. Yvonne Way, member 9 months. Slava Ukraini. F Oink, giving you a little bit. Hungarian Franks, align planets is pagan, paganism is a religion. Take that, Johnny. I love it. That's the Hungarian connection right there. Papa Dutch, American Embassy Canada, more enemies in Canada as well. Follow super chat. Papa Dutch, elbows up. We hit that one. F Oink, all his psychophants, says he deserves the Nobel Prize. Oh, speaking of that, while I do this, I guess that takes the Nobel Prize off the table. Because if you want the Peace Prize, you just said, all right, go at it. We're going to sell weapons. How do you get a Peace Prize?
I think he's invalidated from all sorts of other actions.
Of course,
like
but I'm just throwing it out there.
But there was a question actually that I think is worthy of some debate here. When is Europe confident enough to set red lines without the need of the US as a backup? I don't know that that's ever going to be the problem for Europe is that they really do need the US in some way. Like, as much as we keep talking about, well, the US can walk away from this, they won't be walking away, because they'll be providing all sorts of intelligence that is insanely important. There's all sorts of logistics going on. There's kind of NATO frameworks and networks and logistics right throughout Europe that the US have a big hand in, bases in Poland and Germany and so on and so forth. Like, the US is so important. That is why neither the Europeans nor other NATO allies nor Ukraine has ever gone, screw you, US, or screw you, Trump, we don't need you, we're going to do this alone, because I don't think they can. And also because the more you push the US away, if you do it in a harsh way, like you've screwed this up, Trump, or you or this Trump or whatever, then Trump would just turn around and start cozying up to Putin. He would have no problem with doing that. And so it's always this delicate balance. And I've talked about this with my channel before, saying I understand we might not like it. It feels really dirty, but I understand why these leaders bootlick Trump. When Trump comes to these meetings, they get where they call him daddy and they do this and all that kind of stuff. And it makes you want to vomit, right? But I understand why they have to do that, because that is who Trump is. He is that kind of not leader. He's that kind of narcissist. But you've got to do that, because if you don't, then you don't have the US on side in a way that you need them on side.
Let me say this. I know that European nations are aware and you can maybe correct me if you disagree or have a different opinion, but the European Union needs America in case this escalates further. That's just a fact, because the military is not there strong enough. And you say, well, Russia's so weak. No, Ukraine's so strong. That's guys, the Ukrainian army, they have developed into an unbelievable fighting machine. And the technological advances that both Russia and Ukraine have, specifically in drone warfare, is pacing ahead of the European Union and the United States of America. And I think the world is understanding that and realizing that this is a very dangerous situation to be. And I honestly believe that this may also have some reasoning for the transition, at least today's transition.
Yes. So
it's, guys, I can't explain to you the difference in the war. I just got back from Ukraine. Okay. And I've been 16 months in Ukraine, running aid to the front lines in a war that is pushing towards 4 years. So that, and as an American, you can see how much time I spent there. I've worked there for 28 years. Okay. I cannot explain to you how much the war changed in the last 4 to 6 months in regard to drone warfare. Johnny, I was driving through drone nets 70 miles from the zero line.
Yeah.
70 miles, not kilometers, miles. They're already building them.
Yeah.
Jania and I come up on a supply road that we had to take because other roads are death roads. You cannot go on them. And so we had to route around in a certain region, and we came over a hill and instantly went into a zone of nets that carried us all the way to where we were going. And we looked at each other in shock. And I, at that point, did a calculation. I was 70 miles from the zero, not kilometers. Okay. Somebody knows what's coming. And I think we're seeing that now. I told you guys, one of the analysts out of Russia who is consistent with their madness, but in many ways they call it the way it is, just posted, Trump and Zelensky met in New York, generated a stream of consciousness. In short, let me summarize for you. There will be no peace. Among the nonsense that we heard today was the thought that I thought from Donald Trump that because of my relationship with Putin, this would be the easiest war to get settled. Unfortunately, those relationships mean nothing. We now see that Donald Trump has transitioned from the leader of a free world to a schoolgirl complaining that her best friend is no longer the best friend. Among the real interest of the ruling circles is in regard to economics and oil. And we see that America is moving to a profit status like never before. Trump's confidence now that our problems with fuel and gasoline will cause or lead Ukraine with a possibility to get back to its original borders, I am still trying to digest. I am shocked that these words have even appeared. In general, the United States today has achieved one goal, and that is breaking any hints of economic cooperation between the European Union and Russia. This war has been going on since 2014 on the former Ukrainian SSR, and now it is the hub of weapons, energy flow, and mineral resources. And we see that there is much more at play here than just a simple war between Russia and Ukraine. This war will be long. You need to prepare now, and we must move to a new phase.
A few things. I watched an interview with Jonathan Fink and Simon Woodywitz. So Simon Woodywitz is a former military man from the UK, who is out in Ukraine. He works in sort of has stuff to do with security. He's previously doing like security in Iraq and places like that. He works with a business group. He has his own sort of entity there, trying to get investment from outside into Ukraine and trying to make sure it's done as safely as possible and whatever. But Simon Woodywitz, I met him when I was in Kyiv actually, and he says a couple of really interesting things. One is that he keeps saying this, and he said I shouldn't say this, but the UK are involved in Ukraine in ways that people don't understand. There are quite a lot of soldiers out there, and he said I shouldn't be saying this, but there's just a lot of stuff that the UK is doing that other countries aren't. So from a British person, I'm like, I feel quite happy with both my successive governments for continually supporting Ukraine in ways that we hear about the big things and the big ticket stuff, but actually there is an awful lot happening below the radar, and the UK has been massively involved in Ukraine on the ground since 2014 onwards, right? And that is continuing, so that's worth knowing. And he said that I get really frustrated that other countries aren't doing that, and he doesn't say which countries he gets most frustrated with, but there is this idea that the UK is doing stuff that other countries aren't, and that's pretty pleasing for me anyway, just from a British point of view. But he says lots of other things like how genuinely how bad the Russian training is and the Russian armies are, and he does criticize Ukrainian training. He says they've got issues with this, so he's very honest about Ukraine shortfalls, but massively critical of Russia's shortfalls. And he said one of the interesting parts of this conversation was that if NATO got involved with fighting Russia, so I don't believe that Russia do have the ability to go into Poland and Estonia and the Baltics after Ukraine, because I just think they've exhausted themselves and they don't have the ability, and NATO would just chew them up. And he's of the same opinion. He says, honestly, so if they started throwing drones into NATO airspace or aggressively, then NATO would spend a lot of money shooting these down, and you think, why are they sending missiles, expensive missiles, these very cheap drones? But he said within a week Yellow Buga would just not exist. Like NATO could take Yellow Buga out effectively like that in a way that Ukraine can't, and Ukraine is fighting with some hands tied behind back and whatnot, because they just don't have the ability to definitely strike at these very long distance targets, whereas NATO would just go, right, we've shot down a few drones, we spent some very expensive money, we bought some expensive missiles to do that, but now we're going to hit here and here. And I just, he was very critical of Russia's chances really going forward. Yeah.
You bring up an interesting talking point that we haven't maybe considered yet. Does this shift now change what Ukraine has the capability to purchase or be supplied with? Do we see Tauruses now? Do we see Tomahawks? Do we see, there's different reports on how many pink flamingos are being manufactured daily and monthly. Do we see now Ukraine start to strike other targets that maybe were kind of in a gray area, and I would be, of course, never civilian, but I'm talking about transportation, logisticals, train depots like never before. Does the war change a little bit? Because if you're going to say that I believe Ukraine can now fight back and has a chance to win back their original territory, and then he tells Macron, yep, I think they can do it, let them go for it. Well, then, okay, what happens with the supply? Do we see? I think that's one thing that'll be interesting to watch.
So Trump backs winners. Part of the reason, and people have said this before, other analysts have said this before, part of the reason why Trump might have been very cold on supporting Ukraine is because he genuinely didn't think Ukraine could win. And it's this whole idea that Russia is that big. Look, do you know it's got 11 time zones? Greg, do you know that it's got 11 time zones? Wow,
I do. I've been all over.
Not many people know this. Not many people know this, says Trump. Not many people know this, but it's got 11. Yeah, I've looked at a map, mate. It's got 11 time zones. Yeah. My son's wallpaper is a map of the world. Thanks very much. I know how big it is. It's right in front of his face. Right. So anyway, but he doesn't. But he thinks in these simplistic terms. And so since he's the sort of person that always backs a winner, only backs a winner, like whether it's morally right or not, he doesn't care about the morality. He cares about winning. He
100%.
is
And
someone
making
that just wants to win and making money and maintaining power. And so if we may have just got to it may be very simple, Greg, that we've just got to a point where he thinks that Russia can't win. And he actually has the data now that genuinely suggests that they're going to find it hard to win. And then he's like, well, in that case, I'm going to back Ukraine. Like, it was nothing to do with geopolitical strategy. It was nothing to do with morality. It was nothing to do with the plight of humans and those steeples that have been rubblized. It's nothing to do with that. It's to do with who's going to win. Who's more likely to win? I'm going to back them. I'm not going to back Ukraine with everything because they're not going to win. Oh, I've got some information. I think they are going to win now. Right, you can buy Tomahawks. So this is maybe, I don't know that you will, but maybe, as you say. And we're hearing all sorts of stuff about flamingos. This came out today. Firepoint. Currently, flamingo missiles are using a penetrating warhead that pierces thick concrete and goes 10 meters underground.
10 meters, yeah.
As of early September, the production rate was approximately 2 missiles per day, with a plan to reach 200 per month by the end of this year. We've heard similar already, and then we've heard it's been put back to 2026. And so I don't know. But anyway, the company is currently using a stock of old turbojet aircraft engines with a residual life of less than 10 hours, so on and so forth. So, you know, are we going to start seeing Ukraine finally get up their ballistic and cruise missile or equivalent manufacturing so that they really can hurt Russia? And does Trump finally understand that actually Ukraine is on the brink of being able to do some serious damage to Russia, or are we just being too hopeful? And the other point I was going to make, and this is a Mitch Mazarov. Thanks, Mitch. You're an absolute legend, mate. So you were asking earlier, and I was like, why is he turned on a sixpence here? Like, what's happened? Why is he pivoted? Mitch Mazarov says, I would not discount the fact that checks from Europe will clear for defense material. So we've paid money. There's now $2 billion worth of equipment that we've bought through the PURL scheme to expedite equipment from the US. That has to make a few key American stakeholders happy. So he's going to get a lot of big lobbyists turning up and saying, by the way, we're starting to get a whole bunch of money coming from NATO countries for the acquisition of our weapons. And that's very nice. Thank you very much. Please keep continuing to support Ukraine so that people keep buying our stuff, type thing. No doubt that they have conveyed their sentiments to the Trump administration. So that could be something else that's going on there.
Sergei Sternyenko, you know Sternyenko.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just made a very simple statement. He says, this is
a drone guy that does a lot of fundraising.
Oh, massive, and very good analysis. He says, this is very simple to see. Don't analyze this. The bottom line is there's only 3 or 4 words you need to understand from Trump's statement. And that is, after I familiarized myself, meaning I now have some understanding, meaning he had zero understanding prior to this. Zero.
That's what Tim White said earlier. That's why I was saying, he literally, wouldn't it be so frustrating that all these Ukrainians have died for 7 months because Trump didn't have the wherewithal to go and get to visit the Pentagon and find out what the freaking hell is going on.
Well, that's why I'm ticked off and angry, because there would have been a lot of my friends that would not be dead right now.
Yeah.
Possibly if he would have not really. See, here's the bottom line. He believed Putin, period. The Russia was his source of information. He said it himself. Yeah. And thirdly, it has taken him this long to figure out that, as even it was stated by the Russians, that his schoolgirl relationship with Putin is not real. It's not real. We're entering a whole new chapter here. And I know we need to wait now and we need to see what happens. So now we've had this can potentially be a monumental shift. So now the next 24 hours, I'm seeing some in the chat right now. See, stop action, mates. What happens next 72 hours? I can tell you what's happening in this hour. Kharkiv is under a massive strike right now. Kursk is under a massive strike right now, as well as Belgorod, and there are power outages. Both nations are hitting each other hard right now with drone attacks. That's what's happening.
I was going to show this earlier because we were talking about medium range strike capabilities from the Ukrainians and capacities, like the sheer volume of what they can do now. So this is just one thing that's coming out of Kursk at the moment. So Lugov is a town between Koronovo and, well, between Rilsk and Kursk city. And it was one of these staging towns for the Kursk operation for the Russians. And now that they've gone down into Sumy, it still remains, like Rilsk and like Koronovo, these are kind of staging points for troop accumulations, equipment accumulations, and like officer barracking and billeting and whatnot. And so they keep getting absolutely shellacked. Koronovo was hit, and that's what took out the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade lot. And then Rilsk keeps getting absolutely wrecked, and Lugov as well. And here the town of Lugov is under enemy fire, as in Ukrainian fire. Infrastructure and energy facilities have been damaged. Most residents of Lugov and the surrounding district are currently without electricity. Over 20 explosions were reported. Now, they may be secondary explosions, or there could be 20 drones hitting. If 20 drones are hitting, then you are getting a different capability of Ukraine now, where they're. So I showed talking about this near rear. There was a base that was hit. I'll find the video for it, but it was done at night when 19 supposedly 5-point drones that have 105 kilogram warheads, 19 out of 20 drones hit this base in different areas. Now, that's not something Ukraine were able to do previously, other than maybe if they had a load of HIMARS missiles. They've now got drones that can do this. So you have a change in Ukraine's ability to cause absolute havoc in the near rear for Russia. And that will be hopefully something that the Americans are looking at, and the Trump administration is starting to understand.
I'm trying to share an image here. Here we go. There you go. That's the official photo released from their meeting today. Does this one look different?
Trump's looking happy. He's looking happy.
Zelensky, that is a happy look from Zelensky. I'm telling you. Now, here's what's interesting. We've got more statements coming out now from President Zelensky. This has turned into like a live breaking news segment, to be honest with you. Not really what we planned. It's really good. But Zelensky is now saying, Trump, quote, will provide Ukraine with security guarantees after the war ends. And Trump and I discussed several promising ideas to bring peace closer. I hope they will yield quick results. And today I can say we highly appreciate his determination to help end this war. I am grateful. It's not an ending as in a negotiation. Let's have a trilateral meeting. It is an ending as go kick their rear.
Yeah.
This is a shift, man. Now we need to see what happens.
Yeah. Just showing you on the screen, that's a base that was hit the other night by 19 out of 20 FP2 kamikaze drones. So causing the size of those explosions are much bigger than, say, a Lancet drone, which has about 3.54 kilogram warhead. That sometimes bounces off the side of a tank. These are medium-range drones that are essentially like a HIMARS missile hitting. And I just think that Ukraine are in a different position to be able to really hurt the Ukrainians at the moment. I really hurt the Russians at the moment. I really, really do. F1, Russia has 11 time zones to defend, and Russia's problem is it's such a big country that it's like the analogy I always use, which is air defense is like a blanket that's not big enough for the bed. So when you pull it to one area to keep it warm over here, then your feet get cold down there. Then you put it down to cover your feet and your top gets cold. So Russia's air defense is like that. They don't have enough to cover the whole country. And if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so you're taking air defense from one place to another. And this goes back to the Moscow-Crimea issue. You can't take air defenses from Moscow to plug into Crimea's holes that have been left from massive degradation, because you're going to leave the blanket off of Moscow and Russia, but that's getting worse. Like, that only gets worse. So the blanket only gets nibbled by the mice until you've just got threads left. Every week there are more air defense units getting destroyed, and they're not replacing them, the Russians, because they can't build that stuff.
Ukraine news right now stating now we can see clearly last night that Erdogan's interview with Fox News, he already knew something.
Right. Okay.
This is what they're
Interesting.
saying, because he says it's going to be a long war. It's not going to end anytime soon. Maybe there was some behind the scenes talk, because such a crafted statement.
I wonder whether NATO have actually been sort of, because NATO have been meeting quite a bit at the moment due to the Article 4 invocation. So Article 4 is where you have to consult. The Article 5 is when you agree to go and, like, you know, defend whatever nation has been attacked. Article 4 is, right, we've had Russian jets in our airspace, we've got Russian drones in our airspace, so they've met twice in the last week, NATO, to talk about stuff. And they're not just going to be, you know, they'll be talking about all sorts. And I assume that the US has finally got some understanding, but you'd hope they'd have that anyway. I think there's a disconnect between military intelligence and the Trump administration. And that disconnect has maybe just been, for what reason, maybe we'll find out in 5 years when someone writes a book. But that connection has been remade, maybe.
Now, I will tell you, I know, and I'm watching the chat, guys, and I'm trying to keep up with you guys, and I can't. But I'm doing my best, and we're putting the super chats up and trying to answer all the questions. But I do see in the chat, you know, a lot of you know, talk. Okay, well, this is okay, but now we need action, or let's just wait. Tomorrow he'll change his mind, whatever. He'll taco, whatever. So now we have to wait. But I will tell you, that's the exact statement that one of the another Russian analyst that I follow. And you may ask, Greg, why do you follow Russian analysts? Because I need to know what the enemy's thinking about and talking about, and their view, and then try to translate it and bring it to you. But he's saying, and his name is Denis Kazansky. He says, I see no point in commenting on Trump's recent statement, because tomorrow for sure he'll make a new statement.
There's an element of truth there. So, you know, that is your caveat.
Okay. So just, you know, that thought is out there, guys. You're valid in your thoughts. We're not minimizing that at all. And we're not jumping up and down with balloons, but this is a shift. This is a shift.
There's an interesting question here. Could the USA now accept Ukraine into NATO? No, that won't happen.
No,
it won't happen, because you automatically then have a war. And
you then already, you immediately or straight away would have Article 5, and then boom.
Now, there was talk earlier in the war about some kind of relationship, some kind of stepping stone relationship with NATO, and there were many that were asking for a definitive roadmap. It's like, okay, well, what are the steps for Ukraine to actually join NATO? But that doesn't seem to materialize, because the US recently has been so anti Ukraine joining NATO. Not just the US, there have been other nations as well, not least, of course, probably Hungary too, but not just Hungary. I think, you know, Germany has been a little bit hot and cold on that. So, you know, it's not everyone's desire to see them join now, but my opinion would be this, that if you didn't get Ukraine to join NATO after this war ends, or, you know, whatever the conclusion is, then you are missing out on something. So NATO needs Ukraine. It's not that it's not that Ukraine needs NATO. NATO needs Ukraine.
That's the bottom line. That's what I was trying to share 15, 20 minutes ago. You will not see it on your mainstream media news. You will only find it from independents, people that are really connected to Ukraine, like Johnny or myself. And there are many, many others that do a great job supporting and fighting for Ukraine through media. Okay. But even with that said, unless a lot of time has been spent in Ukraine, I just stand by my statement, because I've seen it with my own eyes with just weeks ago. They're light years ahead of NATO in technology. And Russia is as well. This is a strategic moment where I feel this is a part of the equation, that it could be even Kellogg communicating back like, dude, you don't realize how they're fighting there. You don't know what they're doing. We're not prepared. And we're in a very critical situation right now. I don't know. I'm speculating, but they're really good. Ukraine and Russia's drones are good as well. And it's a different world we live in. Yeah. Completely different. NATO needs Ukraine. It's a fact.
Yeah, yeah, they're the most experienced army in the world, right? And they have
yes,
they have
marine
been
power,
fighting a modern they've been fighting a modern war, and NATO hasn't. And so certainly from the ground forces point of view, NATO will be trained by Ukraine. It's just that simple. Now, although
guys, it's a big attack on Kharkiv. They've taken out some significant electrical substations.
There's a
this one's
substation there.
it's significant.
But also, it turns out that Belbek airfield in Crimea and Sevastopol are under a lot of attention as well. So I think it's going to be a very busy night, because I'm fairly sure Russia would be wanting to respond to what Trump has said and the UN meeting.
They're responding right now, and that's what. Listen, there will be. Okay, so let me tell you what will not happen. You will not see. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But you will not see the tweets come out that the Putin motorcade with all the police cars are en route to the Kremlin for an emergency meeting. That will not happen, because he will not want to show weakness or like this is something major. It's going to be interesting how this is responded to from the Kremlin specifically.
Thank you, Daryl Curson. And I've been thanking everyone, because there's
yes, thank you, everybody. I see that Papa Dutch and F Oink. So Papa Dutch, the legendary American, and I will tell you, Papa Dutch was talking about drone nets before anybody ever talked about drone nets. Daddy Jim there, member for 6 months. Congrats on the 127,000 members. Way to go, Greg. Thank you.
I remember
Daddy
when
Jim.
You had just over 1,000, right? And I had 30-something thousand.
I do. That's when we started our relationship.
Either YouTube hates me, because I got banned for a week by YouTube for misinformation back a couple of years ago, and I was like, I'm literally campaigning against misinformation, and they wouldn't tell me why, and I think I was just reported by Russians and blah blah blah, and they banned me for a week. And anyway, since then, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, obviously, but I get like an extra subscriber like every 3 days or something. So I'm just crawling along like a snail, and you're shooting. Not that this stuff matters for me, but you're shooting off like a shooting star there, mate. So if anyone from Greg's audience want to come over and just subscribe,
please go subscribe to Johnny, because you can see the information coming out. And thank you, man, so much. It's just consistency and trying to be fair. People know where I stand, and I don't mind calling out my own. Trump is not my people, nor most of the Republicans my people. I'm just somebody hunting for truth, just like all of you are. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, but together we got to find common ground to stand on. That's it. That's what's helped me grow. And just grateful to everybody. But Papa Dutch and F Oink, the Hungarian ambassador to the world, they're just in here having a conversation back and forth. So guys, I see you and thank you. And I'll look forward to carrying this conversation on with you guys in the Discord. And as far as that's concerned, if you guys are not members of Johnny's Discord or mine, I'm sure the links are in the description. Well, they're not. Go to another video. This is live. It's not in this one, but it will be. And I also want to say thanks to Dunk on You. He's at work, but listening. He's one of my mods as well. The $20 super chat and gifting 10 memberships. All right, let's keep going there, Johnny. I'm on with you.
Yeah, Mark Biscu, who's an absolute legend. It's clear that the Russian mentality is one that those in the White House have immense trouble deciphering. Perhaps finally they're beginning to realize that Russia is at war with the world. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. But what's frustrating is that we all knew that 7 months ago. So I don't understand. You're absolutely right, Mark. You're absolutely right. Trump seemed to think he had a different interpretation of Putin, and that he was matey with him and whatever. But it's taken him 7 months to work Trump out, or to work Putin out. And that's what Greg was saying in some of the quotes earlier, that the relationship with Putin is not what he thought it was, blah, blah, blah. Why it takes him 7 months to work that out, I don't know. But yeah, absolutely, Mark. Thank you for your support.
Russia's trolling Trump right now. And I'm just reading the stuff as it's coming out, guys. They're saying, oh, okay, Trump, so you shift on the same day Jimmy Kimmel goes back on the air. I mean, meaning they pay attention. Yeah, and I can tell you, Russia and Ukraine both pay attention to the Washington circus. They really do. Because they want to try.
But they're fomenting it. They're the ones that are stoking it because of all the trolls and bots. I mean, they were all over the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Like, it was absolutely right up their alley. So, yeah. Can I just say big up to Car for Ukraine. It is a wonderful charity that I
100%.
my channel has worked with, and Greg as well. They are really awesome. They're trying to raise for a whole bunch of vehicles at the moment. 11 vehicles there. They're 11,000 euros each. They armor them up a little bit. And they get them. In fact, we drove 3 vehicles out from the UK to Lviv to Car for Ukraine, and I know them. I met them. They're wonderful, wonderful humans. We at the moment at ATP Geopolitics are raising money for 2 vehicles. One for the 25th Airborne fighting in Pokrovsk, and one for the 92nd fighting in Kharkiv. And if you can help us out with that, that would be absolutely wonderful. For my channel, it is in the description.
Let me also do a share on this. There. I want to give a shout out as well. I have Gertis and I will be having another huge drone fundraiser. It's in the process of unfolding right now. We just did an impromptu for the 6th, and I hand delivered it out to their positions. All of this stuff, people on my channel know we deliver hand to hand. But I want to give a shout out as well for Cars for Ukraine. They're doing the 50 states for Ukraine. This is from Claire, and I've been talking with Stefan. And I want to say that one of my moderators, does so much hard work, and it's Blonde Bombscheller. She is facilitating the New Jersey Battalion right here, guys. New Jersey Battalion. So if you're looking for something right now to help and donate to BB, you can put that link.
It's great. That Hawaii one
in the description. Yes.
Apparently was just one person.
One person did the Hawaii, and it's done.
The whole Hawaii
Utah,
one, yeah.
Delaware, Michigan, and they're trying to get 50 states. And I've told them that I would be sharing this and doing my best to support it as well. But New Jersey Battalion, I'm based in Pennsylvania, and I'm also a passport holder in Ukraine, in case you guys didn't know. But it's in our Discord as well. So throw some love to the New Jersey Battalion. So thank you, guys.
So I just want to make sure that we've placed all of the super chats on the screen. We haven't been able to talk through them all. There are just too many. So thank you. And the size of Greg's channel these days. The only reason I want to increase my subscribers is my son. I've got twin 15-year-old boys, and Oscar is one of my twin boys, and he is so desperate to have one of these 100,000 plaque YouTuber subscriber plaques. Like that would just basically make his life. And so, because he's a kid, and that's what they're interested in.
All right, let me
help
hop
me
off.
out, guys. Just help me out.
Hey, please go. But
don't show it. Don't, because I will cry. No, yeah, go get it. Go get it.
It's not that. It's because of the story. It's on my wall with all of my patches over here, and I'm on your system, so I can't show my other camera. Yeah. But let me tell you what happened, and then we'll continue, and I'll check. Hold on.
So yeah, I mean that's kids for you. That's what drives them. Big YouTube trophy things. So just trying to work out if there's any other news to hit you with. It's just there's an awful lot going on in both Ukraine and in Russia at the moment. Both sides are throwing quite a lot of munitions. Occupied Horlivka in Donetsk region today, yet again, has taken a bit of a hammering. This has been hit a number of times recently over the last few days. That's Horlivka, and again, those are fairly sizable explosions. Don't know what's been hit, but the munitions that Ukraine are using at the moment, and it's part of the PURL initiative that allows European nations to buy stuff off the US for Ukraine. The initial deliveries, which I think apparently are already getting to Ukraine, were HIMARS missiles and Patriot missiles. So HIMARS are still obviously very much in demand. Right, sir.
I think and I was listening to you there, I think what's once again going to be interesting is seeing what comes in the next 24 to 72 hours.
Well, stupidity in essence here says I think the war is going to be even more ugly and involve Europe more and more. We need to take a stand and decide if we are ready to stand strong.
I'm not.
So
I'm not sure. I want to say I possibly agree with that. I think we may see an escalation that was thought possible, but unexpected, and we'll see. So now we have to be patient. So this is it right here, JP.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, but
mate, Oscar's going to be so jealous.
That's for Oscar. But let me tell you, the same thing. When it went over 100,000 subscribers, my son came to me and says, "Dad, you're a real YouTuber now."
I
said, "Son,
you were a fraud."
I said, "Son, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Dad, I know you do this and all this work, and you got all these friends and all these YouTubers, and y'all have done so much to help the world and help Ukraine." He goes, "But you're legit now." I said, "Oh, well, thank you." He's 17, but guys, forget that. This is what's most important.
So talk us through that.
This is an award for supplying the 3rd Assault Brigade. We did a $54,000 drop, and that's because of all of you wonderful people. This is back when the channel had we were small, but we were working and raised this money to help them, and then hand delivered it. And I hand delivered this with Zhenya to the 3rd Assault Brigade, $54,000 worth of equipment, and it was delivered under a bridge in Pokrovsk that has now been absolutely destroyed. So this is what it's all about. And then forget this. This is what's important. These are all units and that you guys, because of your generosity, this is board number 1. This is board number 2, and there's a third one. I just didn't bring them all over. These are all units that are not just patches off of eBay or Amazon, guys. These are all units that we, together with you and JP, partnering together with other YouTube channels, we supported every one of those units in person, hand to hand. So thank you, guys.
I have a whole bunch of ones up there, though some of them aren't ones I've had particularly stuff to do with. They've been picked up, but a lot of them are actually. And then over here, I've got like you, but it's not hung up at the moment. So some of these are from After Ukraine. So these are my ones, and
fantastic.
And then some of these are Jigger's Paw that we've worked with. After Ukraine, and then that was from Rick both those were from Rick the Ukrainian.
Yep, rollers.
So yeah, absolutely fantastic stuff there. But I don't have enough space to put it up. I'd love to knock it into that window behind me, but it doesn't take nails apparently.
Another analyst I follow in Ukraine, his name is Lachin Pishi. And it means that his name is Lashin, and it means Lashin writes. He has a massive following there. Very, very good analyst, everything in Ukrainian. But he now making a statement as of just a few minutes ago. He says, we're already getting the Russian answer to Trump's change today. And that is, we are being heavily bombed right now.
Yeah. So hopefully the Ukrainians can unleash their own.
Oh, yes, they will.
I really do wonder a couple of things. One, how badly has the military industrial complex been hit over the last 2-3 months? Well, the whole war, but particularly the last few months, where there's been this talk about these new missiles and drones and long range capabilities, Liberty drones that were being used quite a lot, and now we're not seeing so many of them, but we hear that the Germans were ramping up, helping to fund ramping up production for them. So I'm wondering whether there has been some successful strikes by Russians on places like Lutsk and Lviv and Ivano-Frankivsk, where they probably got much safer, supposedly it's safer to produce.
I can tell you this without giving any operational security information, but whether it's any of those cities you mentioned or any others, Yes, there are certain places that Russia has decimated, some strategic places for Ukraine. And I can also tell you that likewise, there are places that Ukraine has decimated, Russian storage, not so much on the manufacturing side, but storage of where they move stuff from central Russia over. Yeah, they hit them long range, but they've interrupted that supply. We've seen a lot of trains hit in southern Ukraine, whether it's transporting fuel or equipment. That's all good stuff. But
because we were hearing that they had these flamingos and FP2s and FP5s, FP1s, and they haven't quite. I mean, they have done a lot. I think they are doing a lot, but I just think that some have been hit.
They have been.
Yeah,
they have been.
Which is so. I think I do a lot of reporting, and quite often, you don't report on the successful strikes on Ukraine because Ukraine have such a good operational security on those strikes.
Oh yeah, I almost started naming cities and I stopped myself.
Yeah, So what they end up doing is first of all, if there are if you get numbers of like 170 drones were sent in and 30 got through, and then there are no pictures produced from Ukraine, that means that they've hit some serious stuff, because when they hit buildings, apartment blocks, you will get pictures of that. And what Ukraine will do, and you understand why they do this, is about PR, it's about morale, but they will say, right, they hit these apartment blocks, and they'll be like 3 apartment blocks have been hit, and they'll put a load of photos of them. But of course, that's maybe like 3 drones out of 30 that have got through. So what happened to the other 27 that we know got through, because they admit how many get intercepted and how many don't? And you're like, well, the rest probably have hit. So we have a tendency to think that the Russians only strike at civilians, that they're just such war criminals that they only strike civilians. They're not. They are striking at military and industrial complexes every night. And yes, they do strike civilians as well, but they're not so stupid that they're going to be just going for civilians, right?
No. And this is, if people don't want to hear it, and I understand why. Although Mitch Ashdown's got a really nice comment here. If anyone has earned freedom and peace, Ukraine has. Thank you, Mitch. That is spot on. But Johnny, Russia's not bad. I know they meat grind. I know they're stupid. I know they kill civilians, but every military person I sit with and talk with, and I'm not talking about, a private, I'm talking commander levels. I'm talking brigade commanders, battalion commanders. They go, man, Greg, just on your videos, just let people know we're fighting a real army here. Don't believe all the memes. We're losing people every day. And the drones, it's always about the drones. So I just try to tell the truth. And the truth is, it's a horrible war. And right now I'm watching the explosions in Kharkiv. Can't show them because we probably both get taken off the air. They're huge. They are absolutely huge. Glide bombs right now on Zaporizhia hitting.
Zaporizhia has been absolutely hammered this week.
Yes.
And in fact, today there were 5 drones that, terminal velocity right into Zaporizhia caused all sorts of horrors there. So Zaporizhia really is coming under a lot of pressure, and it's feeling a little bit like it's going down the kind of Kramatorsk-Sloviansk route, because it is close enough to the front line, but it's a much bigger city than any of the ones that have previously been targeted.
Zaporizhia is 1 million people.
Yeah.
And Dnipro is basically as well. Metro areas. Kryvyi Rih is much bigger than people think. Kryvyi Rih is one of the longest cities in Europe. It's over 100 kilometers long. That's Zelensky's hometown. I can tell you guys right now, Zelensky just spoke at the UN, and basically he said, without China, Putin's Russia is nobody, and China remains silent. So Zelensky now directly calling out China.
That's actually true as well.
yes, it is absolutely true. And there's just man, I thought we were just going to do a little update and talk about a UN speech and Tylenol. And man, next thing you know, here we go.
Don't get me started on that Tylenol thing. It's really interesting. We've had our health secretary come out and say, what are the words? Wes Streeting. So the government's health secretary, saying something like, don't listen to a single word Trump says on health. He doesn't know what he's talking about, which for a government secretary to come out and say was pretty huge. I was just listening on the radio before I got back from taking my son to football. And we had the Conservative Party previous health secretary or health minister absolutely go to town on Trump, just excoriated him on national radio on LBC. So it's both parties just saying this is entirely irresponsible. It's not scientific. There's no data to support it. Blah blah blah. But anyway, that's a whole different.
Well, I'll say this. I actually, and medical professionals in the United States are saying the same thing, just so you know. Scientists are saying the same thing. But for me, I just did a logical thing because the data there, and I know we don't want to talk about this. We need to finish on Ukraine because I got another interesting thing right now. Excuse me. There is a reporter in Kharkiv Direct I follow, and he is saying right now, it's so bad in Kharkiv right now, I'm being honest, this is the first time I've went to the shelter in a year and a half. Yeah. It's tough in Kharkiv right now. It's so close. What I wanted to say was this. Acetaminophen was developed in 1955 and put out in full use, Tylenol, paracetamol. So wouldn't have the issues like started in 60s and 70s and 80s and not in the 2010s? I mean, for me, it's just a logical question. So anyway.
And in fact, autism existed before that. So the thing about autism is that back in 2013, as one example, they included loads of other conditions under the umbrella term of autism. So you can look at the explosion of autism and you can say that actually there are many other reasons why. The diagnosis has got better. We didn't used to diagnose, and now we do diagnose, and we include loads of other things in there that never used to be in autism. So it's just honestly, it's utterly ridiculous. And there you go. My chat on my live. For those who don't know, right, I have this thing about using analogies about Doris the whole time, and there's all sorts going on in my chat to do with Doris.
Yeah, because I'm watching that and I'm going, what is going on with Doris?
She's my imaginary next door neighbor. That when I talk about analogies of what Russia is doing, I say, well, Doris is over the other side of the street, and a van walks up to her and she's beating her around the face and stealing her handbag, and then Brad's standing next to me and he's saying that he's not going to go and help her. That it's and I use like a mugging or her house being the neighbors go around and start like squatting in her house and take over half the house, and then the police come along and they say, instead of kicking out people from Doris's house, the police come in and say, actually, you get to keep the bottom floor now. Doris has to go and live upstairs, because that's what we're doing with Ukraine, which is like, oh, okay, Russia, rather than demand that Russia gives that back, we're like, okay, you get to keep these 4 oblasts, and Ukraine could just move over there. Rather than, that's not what the police do, not that we are police, but you get the analogy. So anyway, Doris is my analogy all the time, and there's just a lot of Doris talking in my thread, and I'm here for it. I love it.
I'm seeing it all because we have a joint. You're hosting, but I'm pushing it through a StreamYard as well, so I'm seeing everything.
Great to see Zelensky smiling.
Not affect genetics, exactly. F-Wink. Yes, great to see Zelensky smiling. Study the wind patterns going out of Ukraine. Giuseppe Dell.
Love you both, guys. You need 1 million plug each. It's never going to happen. YouTube hates me, or maybe I'm just a bit crap at doing this. Right, so thank you very much to all the wonderful super chatters. There are some big ones, particularly for you, Greg. There, Blonde Bombsheller requires, as she always does, a special thanks.
Yes,
and also we have New as well.
And I was glad we could share BB's campaign there for the New Jersey. And yes, Nunu is rocking over here. Thank you, Nunu, so much. For our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Papa Dutch, here he goes. He's getting bold now. Lead follower, get out of the way.
I'm just putting over some of the big ones here.
Interesting there. Comment.
Yeah, Julian.
We will see if Putin really now does have any compromat compromise on Trump. You know, guys, I think we need to stay where we're at. The next 24 to 72 hours going to be very game telling. I don't want to say game changing. The game change has already happened. Now we need to follow through. Go back to Dunks for me, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
Back
sorry,
one.
I've got to go all the way back.
Oh, sorry. Just to remember, Trump is not normal. If we expect that like a normal person, we will be disappointed. He might change his tune in 2 weeks. Slava Ukraini still working, but listening closely. Yes, and that's exactly right. That is exactly right.
So yeah,
we just have to wait, guys, because we want to be able to tell the truth always.
So we've already gone through these. I'm just putting some of the big thank you F Oink. So some of these big ones
for the
really,
family.
really thankful for all of the support. So thank you to all, and there are so many more that I've shown them all. I should have shown them all, but it's just it would take too long to talk them all through. So
Ruddy, I've never thought about writing a book. And I don't know if JP's already written books.
Yeah, I've written, I don't know, too many to remember now. The only problem is no one ever buys them, but you know, whatever. I think my writing days are over now. I like to speak rather than write. I am, however, editing a book I've already written and I've co-written, and it's on the historicity of the Exodus. So that's one for you, Greg. I was editing it yesterday and trying to I was talking about the Codex Leningradensis, which is one of the oldest Masoretic texts of the Torah. Anyway, so so in between doing a bit of geopolitics, I like to do a bit of archaeology and writing on archaeology and historicity and biblical exegesis. So that's how and
I love that about you, to be honest, among other things, including your bald head. But the Russo-Ukrainian, I'm reading something here. So I follow also a lot of Middle East analysts and guys I trust from different nations, and they're now putting out, it's obvious, they call it the Russo-Ukrainian war. It's obvious now the Russo-Ukrainian war peace negotiations are collapsed, as we just witnessed the President Donald Trump back the Ukrainian president and Ukraine's goals of returning territory. So they're taking a step further, not just we're backing you to defend, but they're actually going, he not only backed it to defend, but to be offensive and take back your territory. So they're even breaking it down further. I think people right now are just surprised that anything like this would even come out. It didn't come out of his mouth. It did with Macron.
It just came out of nowhere.
It came out of nowhere. I think that's
just pretty incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we were on, and whoever sent me that chat, I actually just happened to look down to this monitor and I saw it, and we got to it. So thank you again. I'm sure we would have gotten to it over here on this monitor, but we got to it really quick. So, FO Inc. Autism is not a defect; it's a non-conformist way of thinking caused by non-standard development.
One of my twins is on the spectrum, and I could talk to you for a very long time about autism and about particularly pathological demand avoidance, but I won't bore you with the details there. But yes, exposure to poor critical thinking skills is the current cause of autism. Who can see that coming? I think that's a pointed statement of Trump there. Thanks, Mitch. Pirate, thanks for a great night. Thank you for being along with us for this.
Thank you, everybody.
And the Pirate, thank you for that, for use of the little whiskey shop. I do need to make another order. I keep promising that. Mark was in the chat. I don't know if he still is, but thank you to all of you guys. And just a big thanks to all the supporters here. Thanks to all the people that support Car for Ukraine on behalf of either what Greg was talking about, the 50 cars, or our own one at ATP Geopolitics for the autumn harvest. That is very kind. So yes, I appreciate that. And if you can pop to atpgeo.com/donate, you will be able to find that landing page to donate if you are so willing and able. Of course, you only donate if you are able and willing. Please don't feel it is something you have to do. But it's always hugely appreciated. So I guess as we come to a bit of a close, and it's good to hear that Sevastopol is having a Neptune missile alert, because I think there needs to be some payback for some horrendous strikes by the looks of it on Kharkiv and other places. What are your general thoughts? General
thoughts are that since you're speaking about Crimea, I can tell you I follow Crimean channels and information as well, and they're now complaining that they have no fuel. So it is now spread down into Crimea. So that's good. So I think Ukraine's going to continue to assault Crimea massively, because it's when you hear about Rostov-on-Don or cities or locales that is in Russia, but the names aren't noticeable unless you really know Russian geography, it's one thing. But when you start to hear Crimea is being smashed, everybody knows about Crimea. So it's a good example showing what Ukraine can actually do. I will tell you that RIA Novosti right now, RIA, which is one of the state news organizations in Russia. You have TASS and RIA and among others, but they're saying the conflict in Ukraine will ultimately end at the negotiating table, not on the battlefield. And that is not from us, but we are quoting Secretary of State Marco Rubio today at the UN. So they're bypassing anything Trump has said, anything that Zelensky has said or Macron. They're just right now talking about it, and it was only 2 minutes ago that they posted that. They're also saying that due to strikes by the armed forces of Ukraine, parts of the residents of Vogovsky, Ryisky, Glushkovsky, Koronevsky, Konchesvolsky districts of the Kursk region are without electricity. That's my point. I named those 5 towns and cities to you, and nobody knows where they're at. But if you say Crimea, oh, Ukraine's hitting Crimea. Okay. And plus the Kerch Bridge, et cetera, et cetera. So it's good.
Yeah, it's so I'm up and down on Ukraine all the time. My outlook is it's like a yo-yo, and sometimes I'm pretty not depressed, because I'm not the sort of person who gets depressed, but I get angry actually, and a lot of my anger is aimed at actually Trump and the Trump administration. Not even Trump actually, because I think really it's the people behind him. I think he does have a very simplistic view, and he is intuitively pro-Russia, and he's intuitively compromised, either willingly or unwillingly, wittingly or unwittingly, due to his relationship with Russia over the years, and his relationship with Ukraine, and his relationship with Zelensky from 2019, etc., etc. So I just think that I get most down when I see Trump throw Ukraine to the dogs, and that is just it makes me livid, because it's so morally bankrupt. And that's what really I'm the sort of person that morality and fairness is what drives what I do, right? It's what I'm about. It is how my life is dictated, really. And so that's when I'm at my lowest points, I guess, is when Trump does stuff like that. And then so today I'm like very risk, I'm a great vulnerability to get a little bit overexcited, because Trump has done a 180 shift here.
He zagged.
He is, as a prophet said, this is the final zag, right?
This is the zag.
This is the actual
now
zag.
We have to see if he follows through.
But that's the thing, and
we're all aware of that, and we will be covering it 24/7 on the follow through. I'll be up late tonight because I want to catch. Well,
everything that's going on,
anything that's coming out of Russia. It won't be for hours now, and they may even wait, to be honest. So if you don't see a video drop from me translating some stuff out of Russia, and it's only going to be whether Putin or Peskov or Lavrov says something. Lavrov's over here, so they may even wait a couple of days. That's what they do as well. Not a quick response. So, but when the response comes, I'll have it for you. Now, I just thought of something, Johnny, as we're closing out. I went back to Donald Trump's Truth Social, and I will share my screen with you. And I'm heading to my daughter's volleyball game, so I'm not trying to extend us, but I wanted to show this. So this is how I analyze things. This is Trump's Truth Social. All right, he's delivering remarks 1 hour ago. They put the video up. 515 comments, 1,000 retweets or whatever they retweets, 3.9K likes. Okay, then I go to his right here, his Ukraine statement that we've covered. We have 2.7K comments, 4.4K shares, and 18.9K likes. If I come to his statement about Pam Bondi 2 hours ago, before the Ukraine statement, 766 comments, 3,000 reshares, 12,000 likes. 4 hours ago, 15,000 likes talking about Argentina. So my point being is this is getting some traction here.
Can you see the stats? Say the stats of them again.
18 point. Well, I can refresh it again, but 18.9 thousand hearts.
Right,
And
so
I don't use Truth Social, so it's getting more footing. And even his Pam Bondi tweet here only's got 12,000 hearts. I don't even know how to use Truth Social. They'll show more if we come to comments.
Yeah, you won't
go to
comments,
respecting, trusting. See, this is what people have said on the far right. The MAGA world. I'm sorry, the MAGA world. Whatever Trump says, they'll support.
Yeah,
like drinking the Kool-Aid. So
and that's what's so frustrating is that
I agree with you completely.
He could have done this 7 months ago, and everyone would have backed him. There was no one in MAGA world that really would have gone. Maybe the odd Tucker Carlson, but mainly people would have been like, yeah, obviously Russia the bad guy. So yeah, let's help Ukraine. It's so freaking annoying. 7 months of lost time
and lives. And I know there would have been, still lives lost, but maybe not as many.
No, by the way, Captain George for you has really helped you out there. So that's a huge.
Captain George, thank you, sir, for your support and your care. Kick Russian butts. We're doing our best every day, supporting those heroes to kick Russian butts. And it's going to be interesting what unfolds here, guys. We'll be on it for you.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say, and this is something I said a long time ago, and it's kind of like there was a theory because Lloyd Austin talked when he was Secretary of Defense under the Biden administration. He talked about, or was he Commander in Chief? He's Sec Defense, wasn't he? So he talked about stopping Russia from being able to do this for generations to come. I forget what he said. It was in April. Was it 23 or was it even April 22? But the idea was there is a theory you can build up that the US didn't want Russia to be beaten quickly because then they would be able to regenerate quickly and be able to do this again. And so a protracted war from a military point of view and a strategic point of view with regard to Russia at the cost of Ukrainian lives. So it's almost like you can build up a case that you can use and forget the morality of this, right? But that you could use Ukrainian lives to draw out a hugely costly war for Russia in terms of both economics and lives and materiel. So like a 4-year war is better for completely destroying Russia than a 1-year war where Ukraine prevailed. Now, the thing is that Ukraine would prevail and you would have saved all these Ukrainian lives. But if you're not caring about that, if you're talking from a purely kind of maps, strategy, numbers point of view, a 4-year war totally destroys Russia for like 20, 30 years. And the US, so you can make a case that the 7 months of Trump dithering and not doing the right thing actually further fundamentally attrits Russia to the point that they're not going to be able to come back and cause the US any further harm. Now, he wouldn't have planned that, but that is a calculation. That's horrible because you're actually using Ukrainian lives to do this.
Once again, they are the cost, and it's a high cost. But once again, we're in a. I'm not an expert on this, but I think we're in a 72-hour window potentially to see how Russia will respond. We already see militarily what Russia's doing and what Ukraine is doing. They're both tonight big attacks for both nations against each other. But it's going to be interesting now to see how this flushes out over the next 72 hours from the United States. It's going to be interesting to hear what people like a Rubio says now that Trump completely went way beyond Rubio's statements, Secretary of State, and really going to be telling to see what comes out of Russia on this. And as I told you guys, when I say I'm looking for something from Vladimir Putin or Lavrov. And it may come through Zakharov or Peskov. It may come out of Zarubin, who's running around Putin all the time, but it's just going to be interesting to see how they spin this. And that's what's and that we'll see. I see Nick in here, Daddy Jim and Nick chatting back and forth. Nick was talking about this is what happened in Afghanistan during the time when you were talking about the war of attrition there for Russia. And we'll see. I probably will not be sleeping tonight, guys.
This is big. I'm probably going to put out a quick video just talking through that.
I have all confidence that you're going to do that.
Well, look, Greg, it's always a pleasure, never a chore. I really appreciate the time we spent together.
Thank you.
That the same can be said for the team.
Bleeding
at
USSR dry in
Geopolitics.
Afghanistan. Yes.
And I'm sure it's the same for you and your audience. So thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you. I want to say welcome to Kathy McMurtry, new crew member, and Papa Dutch and F-Wink are just going nonstop. Autocorrect is an oxymoron. Don't discount bot farms liking everything Trump. That's true as well.
Yeah.
And Kevin Force there on you. Thanks for another great live, guys. Amazing and generous supporters of Ukraine. Please don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah. And you guys on my channel, make sure you subscribe to Johnny. He's at ATP Geopolitics or vice versa.
And vice versa, yep.
Yeah, and check our Discords out and all that jazz. Good places for everybody. So we'll be back at you as
brilliant stuff.
As soon as we get to the next level.
And it's great to see the little whiskey shop Mark, who you've met out in Ukraine.
Mark's my buddy.
He is still in the chat. So Mark, I will put an order in. I promise. It will happen. And atpgeo.com/donate, or there's a link there. So help us out with that one. That'd be amazing.
Let's see here, Johnny. You got to say your goodbye. I want to say
I'm done.
Okay, I want to say my goodbye. Not that. Don't play that.
Nice porter from Papa Dutch.
Okay. Wait a second on that. Papa Dutch, as soon as my porter, I'm sure. Listen, Papa Dutch may have a still in the woods. That's all I'm saying. We'll leave it there. And then I saw something else here. $10 super chat. Thanks, Greg and Johnny, for all you do.
Yeah,
thank you. Here, play that one. Here's my closer, guys. Love to all of you. And thank you for all of your support. Can we hear your song, Greg? New, you are reading my mind. Kick it, Greg. Yet, Benzina, there is no gas. I stare in horror through my grimy Lada's glass. Those pumps, they are drier than old Putin's heart. For this is how Mother Russia falls apart. From Moscow City to the Vladivostok Pier, the only thing that's flowing is one single beer. Yet, Benzina, my hopes are finally dashed. Putin's paradise is now all smashed. Niet benzina, there is no gas. Niet benzina in Russian translates to no gas. So there you go.
Stuff.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful to hear.
Thank you to
your
everybody.
dulcet tones.
God bless all of you, or may the planets align over your head if that's your cup of tea. And thank you always, guys. We'll be back.
Toodle pips.
All right.
Slava Ukraini.
Geroim slava. Razem do peremogo, dorogoy. Bratushka moja. Bajaj zdarovia.
All right. God, don't show me up.
I didn't show you up. I just gave you all of it.
And rightly so.
That's the full one. So you said, glory to the heroes. And I said, you said glory to Ukraine. Glory to heroes. And then, of course, on towards victory. And then it was the official Bajaj Zdarovia. I wish you health. Like if I was to walk up to President Zelensky, that's how you would greet him. So any of you want to know how you greet a Ukrainian soldier, in case you see one somewhere, it is Bajaj Zdarovia. There you go. And they will know. Bajaj Zdarovia. And they will know that you really know about Ukraine. There you go.
Excellent. This is turning into one of my famous long goodbyes. Just very bad at doing goodbyes. So thanks, mate. Take care, everybody. Toodle pips.
Plus.